Hey guys, I'm Whitney. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're just doing a March roundup, so I'm going to be talking about the 12 books that I read in March. So let's get right into it. So the first book I read in March was Amina's Voice by Hina Khan, and this book follows Amina, who is a middle grader, and her family is from Pakistan, and she's finding it really hard to fit in because her best friend is from Korea, and she's becoming a citizen soon. And she's talking about changing her name, and Amina doesn't understand why she would want to change her name to a more American name. And so she's just really having a hard time fitting in with her peers in middle school. And then the mosque where her family attends is vandalized. And so that throws her through a loop as well. And she doesn't really know quite how to deal with it, but she learns from it, and her friends rally around her, and she realizes that even though she may think that she doesn't fit in with some of her American classmates, she does fit in more than she realizes. So this book was just okay for me. I didn't really get attached to the characters very well. It was just kind of surface level for me, and her mosque getting vandalized was a really big part of the book, and it didn't happen until about 3/4 of the way through. However, it says right on the inside flap that her mosque is vandalized. And so I thought that this was going to be happening, a quarter of the way through, and the rest of the book would be about her and her family and how they were dealing with the aftermath of that. But like I said, it didn't happen until 3/4 of the way through. So the whole time I was reading, I kind of was outside of myself and not really enjoying the whole story because I was thinking, well, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? So I wish that that wouldn't have spoiled it for me. So the second book I read in March was The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. And this book is about a town where every year they have to leave a baby in the woods as sort of like an offering for protection. So their town will stay safe for another year. And the lady that lives in the woods, Zan, they think she's evil, but she really is actually rescuing these babies, and they don't know it. And so they keep leaving them out there. But one year she rescues the baby and she falls in love, and so she can't find another family for her because she has fallen in love with this baby, and she names her Luna, and she somehow absorbs moonlight and becomes magical and has magical powers. And so Luna can't know about this because it's a danger to her, and she's dangerous because she doesn't understand what's happening to her. So Zan raises her in the woods, and this again was another book that was just okay for me. I felt not very invested in the characters again. The writing, Kelly Barnhill's writing, was beautiful. It was lyrical and it was beautiful, and I don't know, maybe that's why I struggled with investing in the characters, but it just wasn't my favorite. And tons of people love this book, so I was surprised that I fell kind of in the middle. I wasn't a fan. Anyway, there were some parts of this that I just really didn't care for, and it was just kind of personal preference. I felt that it was just a little bit too dark for a middle grade. There were some elements that I just wish weren't in there, and had they not been in there, I think I would have enjoyed the story more, but that's okay. So this was just another middle of the road book for me in the month of March. So the next book I read in March was another middle grade. It was My Diary from the Edge of the World by Jodi Lynn Anderson. And I have to say, this might have been my favorite book of the month. It was so beautiful and so heartwarming. This book is about a girl, Gracie, and her family. And they are traveling to the end of the world because there are clouds, and this is like magical realism, and so I got kind of tickled because it would mention, dragons flying over the 7-Eleven, so there would be aspects of our world with some mythical creatures mixed in, and it was interesting to read. But anyway, so they, in their world, it's kind of like a another dimension of our world, and so in this world, clouds, when someone dies, a cloud comes and it hovers over them or follows them around for a while. And so they see one coming towards their house, and they just know that it's for Gracie's little brother because he's always sickly. And so they know that this cloud is coming for her little brother. And so the family rallies together. They sell their home. They buy a camper, And they start driving to the edge of the world because they know that if they get to the edge of the world, there's a possibility that maybe, just maybe, they can reach the other dimension of Earth. And my goodness, I loved this book so much. The family in this book was precious. The lengths that they went to save or try to save their son and brother were astronomical. So of course, throughout the book, there's this suspense of, will they save him? Is it really coming for the brother? Like what is actually happening here? And the ending was really impactful, and I cried when I read this book, and I can see why Savannah Grace wanted me to read it so much, because it was just a really heartwarming, touching book about family, and I love books about families. Okay, so the fourth book I read in March was Boy by Roald Dahl, and it was the autobiography of Roald Dahl as a young boy. It started when he was very young, and the book ended when he graduated high school. And there's another one, Going Solo, I think that takes place after he graduates high school and when he's in his, I think he joined the military, so it's in that time and his travels and all of that. So I actually would love to read that one soon as well, because I really enjoyed it. It didn't read like an autobiography. It wasn't dull or boring. It read like a novel. It was really interesting to hear where he got a lot of his ideas for his stories and his characters. Mrs. Trunchbull or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, all of those things, they had an origin in his childhood, and I just found that fascinating. So I really enjoyed this book as well. Taking a break from the middle grade for a minute, and the next book I read in March was Cress, and this is probably my favorite installment in the Lunar Chronicles so far. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles. And it follows Cress, this is a sci-fi fairy tale retelling. So Cress represents Rapunzel in this book. And I enjoyed this one so much more than Scarlet and Cinder because the characters were more developed. The world building was better. It was just so much more detailed than the first two. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It also featured Thorn, who is kind of the love interest of Cress, and he has been my favorite male character so far in the series. And I don't know, this made me excited to continue on with the series, whereas I had been reading it kind of just to pre-read the books for my daughter, but this one made me actually enjoy the series and want to continue. So that was fun. Next up, we're back to middle grade, and I read Theater Shoes by Noel Streatfeild. And I was so excited to read a shoes book because they're so popular and I've never read them. And they've been on my shelf for a very long time, so I was just glad to get to it. So this follows 3 siblings who are being raised by their grandfather because their father is missing in action during the war. And so their grandfather passes away and they have to go live with their grandmother on their mother's side, who they've never met. And she is a famous actress. And so she enrolls them in theater school, and it's completely different from anything that they've ever experienced, but they throw themselves into it and they start enjoying what they're learning. And it's just a sweet look at the lives of these children in wartime and how the theater was important during that time period, not just for the children and the actors and actresses, but for the soldiers as well. And so I really enjoyed this, and I'm glad that I finally read a shoe book. So the next book I read was New Kid by Jerry Craft, and this was a graphic novel, a middle grade graphic novel, and it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. Of course, it was a graphic novel, so it was quick to read. So it follows 7th grader Jordan Banks, and he's going to a new school, but this school is not very diverse, and so he does not fit in his new school, and so he has to balance being one of the only person of color in his class and trying to navigate that new world while also coming home and having to learn how to navigate his old friendships where he's not in their classes every day, and he has to bridge these 2 worlds that he is living in. And the graphic novel did a great job of portraying this. And it's actually a part of a series. I think the third one is actually coming out soon. And so I'm excited to continue reading. But it was a really, like I said, fast read, but it was really impactful. I think graphic novels do a great job of portraying some harder subject matter in an easier to digest form. And I really appreciate that. So I really enjoyed that book. Next up, I read Blue Willow by Doris Gates. And this book follows Janie Larkin. She is a young girl in her family. Her dad is kind of like a traveling worker. He works where he can, while he can, and then when the jobs run out, like the field work is over, they move to a different place and she has to start all over. And so she has this blue willow plate that she packs away, and it's kind of like her dream to have a place where she can have a permanent home to display this plate that is so special to her. And so, you know, it's just kind of like her ideal. She wants to settle down and put down roots, but because of her father's job, it's not really a possibility. And this book was, again, just okay for me. I could not really connect with Janie or some of the other characters in the book very well. I'm not sure. It just was okay for me. It wasn't anything special. It was just okay. There's not much more to say about it, honestly. I don't know. Like I said, it was just okay, but I did enjoy, there were some illustrations throughout the book and those were enjoyable, but I'm not sure. It was just okay. How many times can I say this? Should we put a counter at the bottom? Just okay. 1, 2, 17. Next, I read Aggressively Happy by Joy Marie Clarkson, and her mom, Sally Clarkson, is an automatic pre-order for me. Every time I see that she has a new book, I pre-order it. And so I was excited to get my hands on her daughter's book to see if I would like her writing as much. And this is a nonfiction book about being happy. And it comes at it from a Christian perspective, which I really enjoy. And one thing that I really liked about this book, she organized the book around 10 verbs, 10 things to do. Befriend sadness, flounder well, remember you have a body, enjoy things unironically, tell yourself a good story, be like Mr. Collins, believe in God, accept love, expect the end of the world, and give yourself away. And each chapter dealt with the verb that she was talking about. And I don't know, I just thought that was a unique way to go about, helping people find happiness. Also, at the end of every chapter, she has these like a page that has more suggestions on things to read or to watch or to listen to that go along with that chapter, which was really kind of neat to get some more information. The chapter I think that resonated most with me was Enjoy Things Unironically. I have a tendency to get overly excited about little things that people may not normally get excited about. But I don't know, I like that about myself. I like that I'm not jaded, and I like that things still excite me. And it really resonated with me, and I really enjoyed her take on why that is important as well. In that chapter, she has a little bit of a confession where she confesses one of her guilty pleasures is listening to BTS, which is a Korean band. And I don't know, I just thought that was fun because you may not correlate a Korean pop band with someone who is more academic and scholarly, but she loves them and she doesn't care that she loves them. And that's kind of how I am with some things as well. And I don't know, it just really resonated with me, and I enjoyed reading her book. She writes really, really well. She has a way of writing nonfiction that makes it extremely readable and relatable, and I enjoy that a lot. The next book I read was Brandon Sanderson's Secret Project #1, which, if you're not familiar, he did a Kickstarter that was record-breaking, and he is releasing 4 secret projects this year. And so the first one was called Tress of the Emerald Sea, and it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. It follows Tress, who, in the world that he created, which was so unique and so cool, they live on little islands, and instead of the ocean being water, it's created with different spores. And so Tress lives on an island that is surrounded by emerald spores. And one day, the love of her life leaves, and she collects cups. And so he tells her he's going to send her a cup at every stop to let her know that he's still thinking of her and he still remembers her. Well, one day the cups stop coming, and she knows that he's still out there and something terrible has happened to him. So instead of just waiting around for him to come back, she sets off on this adventure to find him. And along the way, she finds herself as well. And it was just such a fun ride. It's so fun to explore the world with Tress for the first time, because as she's experiencing new things, we're experiencing them right along with her. And, you know, the cast of characters that she meets as she makes her way across the ocean of spores become either friend or foe, and it was just a really fun read. And I'm excited to read his Secret Project number 2, which is out, and I've started it, but I'm also reading another of his books, so I didn't want to read the two at the same time, so I'm waiting a little bit, but I'm excited to get to that as well. So Tress and My Diary from the Edge of the World are probably tied for my favorite books of the month. Both were whimsical and moving in their own way. And I don't know, I probably couldn't pick between them, honestly, but Tress was really great. So the next book I read was another middle grade graphic novel called Measuring Up. And this follows Cece, and she has moved to America from Taiwan, and her grandmother wasn't able to move with them. And so she misses her grandmother so much, and they talk on, via Skype or whatever quite a bit. But it's just not the same as her grandmother being here. So she hears of a local cooking competition for kids, and the grand prize is a certain amount of money. I don't remember what it was exactly. But she decides that she's going to enter this contest and use the money to fly her grandmother to America for a visit for her birthday. And so I really enjoyed this graphic novel. It was fun to read about Cece and her friendship with another of the kids that was competing. It also was neat to hear about all of the different foods that all of the kids made. And I don't know, it was just a fun read, and obviously a quick read because graphic novels are, a fast book to get through. But anyway, it was really enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun reading it. Okay, so the last book I read in March was Anne of the Island by Ellen Montgomery. And this is the third in the Anne of Green Gables series. And Savannah Grace and I listened to it on a road trip. And we didn't quite finish it while we were gone, so we finished it when we got home. But this is so good. Savannah Grace she's fun to read books with or listen to books with because she gets so invested in the characters and the story that she usually has like just a reaction, like she'll laugh out loud or she'll, get frustrated and throw her hands up or whatever. She's just fun to read books with. So it was fun listening to this with her as well. But this is the third book. So Anne is 18 and she's leaving Green Gables to go to college, and it's like her life stream. So it follows Anne and her life at university, and it's just so fun to get to see Anne fulfill one of her dreams that she's had. Her friendship with Gilbert is put to the test, and something tragic happens, and she realizes what she really wants after the tragedy happens. So that was also, it was sweet to see the culmination of that happening as well. But anyway, I was excited to read another Anne book, and I'm excited to continue this series with my daughter. It was fun to be back in this world, experiencing this with Savannah Grace. All right, so those are the 12 books I read in the month of March. Some were just okay, none were outright awful, and a few were winners for sure. So it was a good reading month overall. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.